Hello, everybody. We're just gonna give another minute or so to have everybody join us. Hopefully everyone is having a great Wednesday. Here we go. Looks like it's gonna be a full house.
Fantastic.
All right, and we are live on Facebook as well. All right. All right. Well, first, I want to thank everyone for joining us today on another Ask an Expert series. We are going to be going over the proven path to conquering paper clutter for good. Today, we have Celie Kali joining us. She will be going over the presentation here. So, Celie, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Cesar. I'm so honored to be part of this MaxSold Go Month series. Go stands for Get Organized. And I'm speaking today, and I know that my esteemed colleagues, Judith Kohlberg, Diane Quintana, and Jonda Beatty are also coming up later this month. So if you haven't registered for those, be sure to do so. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we will get started. Okay, fantastic. So it's just such a delight. And as I said, I am here, and this is the proven path to conquering paper clutter for good. So if you've registered for something else, you're in the wrong place. And I would love for you to pop in the chat if you're available, if you're able to, if you're in the Zoom call, a fun fact about where you live in the US, and a fun fact about you. And I will go ahead and get started. And if you're on Zoom, be sure to change it to everyone so that everybody can see everybody else's comments. And I know that if you have any questions, you can put them in Facebook or in Zoom, or maybe even in LinkedIn. I don't know exactly how that works. So my fun fact is I am Celie Kali. I live in Arlington, Virginia, and I just live 3 miles as the crow flies from the White House. And I met my husband on a true blind date in 1989. That was before the internet, people. So that's quite impressive, I think, but I guess I'm biased. So let's jump right on in. What to expect during this call. I'm going to teach you a couple of quick wins right up front that are going to help your productivity. We're going to talk about the current reasons for paper clutter and why the traditional methods seldom work. I'm going to show you a unique perspective to think about how to effectively organize the paper clutter that you do have. I'm going to tell you about my 5 clear categories that you must consider. I think it's really going to help you get a lot greater clarity on your paper processing. And I'm going to leave time for questions and answers at the end. So if you have those questions, pop them in the chat wherever you are, and hopefully we will have time to get started. Jana, thanks for coming from California, and Kelly from Toronto. Oh my gosh, I love having people from Canada. It's so much fun. Okay. So some other things, what else to expect? This talk is designed for the general population who want to learn about paper organizing. If you're looking for a digital solution, if you're here and you're looking for a digital solution, you're in the wrong place, my friend. I won't be addressing that all because that is not what I know and teach. What I teach is actual physical paper organizing. And I did want to mention that there are some other professional organizers also on this call. So I'm going to be giving code words so that they can use them towards their gathering hours for their professional development. So if you're not a professional organizer, don't get upset. You're like, wait, what's the code word? Do I need that to get the recording? You don't. Those are just for my professional organizer friends. And I'm going to start with the code word fun, F-U-N. The first code word for you is fun. I hope we're all going to get a lot of fun out of this presentation. So what I'm hoping is that by the end of our time together, you're going to have a whole new approach to transform your physical paper piles for good. My goal is for you to leave this class inspired, excited, and ready to take action. So because of that, I want you to turn off all of your distractions, right? You took the time to be here live or to listen to this recording. So turn off your phone, close the door, give the dog a bone, whatever you need. Get out your favorite pad of paper and pen. Like I said, I am all about paper. I love paper. I love to feel it and touch it and use it. And that's what my goal is for you. So I'm hoping you're going to get at least one golden nugget that you can take away today and use this afternoon. But what I want to do is I want to start right away with a quick win, okay? And this is from my ebook, The Secrets to Set Up Your Desk for Success. And you can get this ebook and actually another one and any links to the products that I'll be showing you if you go to celicolli.com/MaxSold. And somebody will put that in the chat if you're in Zoom so that you can just click on the link and it'll take you right there. You don't need these things right now, but I just wanted to give you that resource so that you know that you've got an ebook coming to you, The Secrets to Set Up Your Desk for Success. And we're going to start right away with just a couple of things from that. But before that, I need to start with one of my favorite quotes. And this is called The Art of Waste Basketry. And this is from Barbara Hempfield, who is a renowned professional organizer. She actually founded NAPO. And I love this quote because what is that? We need to learn the art of waste basketry to be successful in any kind of decluttering attempt. It is just an essential ingredient. So to that end, I want to know right now, where is your closest trash receptacle? Tell me in the chat. And I'm saying from your work surface, from your desk, wherever you do your work. If you're in your recliner in the living room, you may not have a trash bin right by you, but I'm talking about your work surface. Tell me where it is, because it should be within arm's reach of wherever you process your paper. And I know my organizer friends are thinking, well, of course, Celie, that's obvious. But for those of you who suffer from paper clutter, I can't tell you how many times I would go into someone's home office and I would look around and there would not be any place to throw things away. And unless you can master the art of waste basketry, you're never going to be successful at decluttering your space. So I'm just going to actually stop my share and I'm going to tell you a little story. So I had a client, fantastic client, very high end, and she had her designer create this beautiful office space for her, this gorgeous custom-made desk. It was super leggy. And the idea was that in the desk drawer, she would be able to keep all of her action files that she wanted to keep within arm's reach. And for those of you who don't know, a traditional file folder is about 9.5 inches tall. And these desk drawers were designed at 8 inches tall. The designer never thought to actually measure. She thought, oh, a piece of paper is 8 by 11. So that really didn't work out. But it wasn't a lost cause because the designer also did not want an actual trash bin in the office. She didn't like the way it looked. It ruined the groove. But so we ended up actually using the desk drawer for my client's trash bin. And so it worked out. Everybody was happy. And the client actually ended up getting one of these kind of very attractive file boxes that the designer approved of to use for on her desk for her action folders. So it worked out, but it was just such a kind of unexpected situation when we thought we could file those papers in the desk and we couldn't. So I'm just going to check the chat here. Under your desk to the left, you're near my knee. Oh, I absolutely love that, Karen. That is what I like to hear. Oh, recycling, shredding, and tiny waste bin under my desk. Susan, I am guessing that was just to the host. Make that go to everyone because you are singing my song, my friend. Oh my gosh. Have you seen this presentation before? If you haven't, then maybe that's you just are reading my mind. So this is exactly what I was going to say. Everybody needs to identify if you need separate containers. You might need one for recycling, one for shredding, and one for actual trash, just like Suzanne mentioned there. And what I want you to do is, just as these people mentioned, decide on the very best location for these receptacles and how big they need to be, okay? So I find that so often I go into people's homes and they intend to shred. They've got a shredder and there's a pile of shredding this high on the shredder. So I would rather you have a dedicated bin for shredding. And in the link that I told you about, seelycauley.com/MaxSold, are links to these 3 products that I'm going to mention. And just so you know, I am an Amazon affiliate, so I'm going to get a couple of pennies if you go to these links. But I love this exact M Design rectangular bin. It comes in 24 colors. And I love it because, just like perhaps you might need, I had a client who wanted one bin for her recycling and one bin for her shredding. So she got 2 different colors and it made it so easy for her. I also like the rectangular size because I think it takes up less room under a desk than a round bin. So there's a great link for you there. Now, just as someone mentioned, maybe you've got trash. I went to a client's home and she had a paper plate on her desk that had kind of banana peels and tea bags and the plastic wrap from magazines and all of the trash, because she didn't want to sully her recycling. She didn't want to ruin the recycling by putting trash in there. But this just sat on top of her desk. So I was like, that's not going to do. So we actually sourced this little mini bin, and it's perfect for all of that. Whoops, hold on. Why is it not working? There we go. And it's perfect. And it actually comes with little plastic bags, so you can put the wet and mucky stuff right in there. And it sits right on the desktop and it's perfect. I actually use this in my kitchen also, for kind of all of the tea bag trash that we create during the day, the wrappers and the bags and things. I think it's perfect. So that would be great for just kind of any real trash that is on your desk. And one of the other tools that I want to share with you is, as I mentioned, that pile of shredding. Maybe don't even shred. Maybe just use one of these fantastic stamp IDs. And I really like this one because it's the widest one I've seen. And they are so handy. You literally just take it and take your whatever it is that you don't want people to see. Again, if it's your address, that's kind of pointless because I could probably find your address in about 3 clicks on Google right now. But I'm talking about things like full account numbers or maybe amounts in accounts. If there's something that you don't want people to see, instead of worrying about shredding the whole piece of paper, just take your stamp ID and look at that. That absolutely blocks that out beautifully. And then you can just take that piece of paper and throw it away. Remember, it's 2023, my friends, and very few people are going through your trash to try to find things. But if you're worried, I really love this product, and all of these, the links to these 3 products are at that resource for you. And so is this ebook with a ton more information. But I just wanted to start us off with a quick win to get us ready so that we can really talk about getting productive. And that's a wonderful way. Monday was National Clean Your Desk Day. And not only do they want you to clean up the papers, but they also wanted you to wipe down the surfaces. So I think this is a great way to start a new year and to celebrate Go Month. So don't hesitate to get that ebook. So in one word, I would love for you to tell me how the clutter makes you feel. And if you're a professional organizer, use the words that your clients that tell you. This is one of those things that, and while you're doing this and popping that in the chat, because I'd love to hear the one word that really resonates, the feeling you get when you see things like this. I wanted to let you know that any of the pictures that you see in my presentation, like the ones on the screen right now, these were given, I was given permission from clients. These are actual client situations that I had, or there are photos from a paid resource that I use or my Canva Pro account. So what about that? Let me just take a quick look at the chat. Insane, stuck, overwhelmed. Yes, claustrophobic. That is so valid. These words, I mean, the words that you're using are so powerful, paralyzed. This is what the clutter can make us feel. And it's so difficult when you just walk into your office or your workspace and you just want to turn around and run away, right? So I appreciate that that is not ideal. So if you're here, I'd like to know why. Are you, number one, you're ready to make a change, right? It's the beginning of a new year. You don't want to face how bad it is, even if it's not as bad as all that. But in your mind, you're just ready to make a change. Or perhaps you're number two. You are just fed up with the paper piles everywhere, like the client that had me to her home office here. She was absolutely fed up. And perhaps you're just like me. You're still paper-based, right? And you're just craving a non-digital long-term solution. So tell me, what are you, if you can pop in the chat, are you number one, ready to make a change? Number two, fed up? Or number three, you're just looking for some more solutions. You're looking for a new perspective. I personally am number three. Let's see. I see some threes. Oh, good. We're all three for clients. Thank you for clarifying. Wonderful. So I think that that's perfect. And I just wanted to tell you that whatever your motivation, you are in the right place. Oh, so it realizes me, you guys don't know much about me. Let me introduce myself a little bit more in depth. And I'm going to do it by the numbers because I love numbers. So the number 30, last May, 2022 was my 30th wedding anniversary with my beloved husband, Tom. That's us in the middle on our wedding day. We have one child. She is 24 years old. That's our daughter. And I'm just give me a chance to brag a little bit. That is her in May of 2020 when we celebrated her Harvard summa cum laude 2020 graduation. That was actually 2022. It got postponed by 2 years, but we finally were able to do it. And the other one is the number two, because I've lived in two countries. My husband and I spent most of the 90s in Cambridge, England. That's where he got his PhD and taught. And that's where our daughter was born in 1998. So if I throw in some Britishisms, you'll have to forgive me. Like I said, she never wore diapers because she only wore nappies. A little bit more about me professionally. I became a certified professional organizer in 2008. There are currently fewer than 400 of us worldwide. So I've been organizing others for, now it is actually 2 decades. I started my business in 2023, and I've been teaching this unique paper method since 2004. So I feel confident in it. I've organized thousands of homes at this point in my career, and I've taught this paper method to hundreds of people, including now my students on 4 continents. And you should also know that I consider myself a digital dinosaur, right? I am 59 years old. I am not a digital native. It's not an easy thing for me to do digitizing, and that's why I don't teach a digital solution. And so what I do also want to let you know that I am not perfect. I get it. The struggle is real. So I'm going to just show you. So as I mentioned, my daughter was born in 1998, and some of you might recognize this Anne Geddes style baby book. It was very popular in the late 90s. So I only have one child, and I was pretty good with this till we moved back to America in the year 2000. And then pretty much I was overwhelmed, and I abandoned the baby book. So for my daughter's 21st birthday, I finished it. And when I say finished it, I really just went in and throw a bunch of photographs on it so I didn't have to write in it. And I wrapped it up and I gave it to her for her 21st birthday. So this generally, yes, somebody just mentioned their son was born in 1988. So you get it. So I'm just saying to you, I understand. I'm an organizer, and it took me 21 years to finish her baby book. And I only have one child. For those of you with more than one, hats off to you. So I do understand. So why are we in this situation? What's going on with that? It's so overwhelming. This is a client photograph, and she literally used a lap desk to do her work because there was no room on her multi-level desk to get her work done. And I want to also reassure you, it's no wonder that we can't get organized. Our parents were never had to deal with this, so they never were able to teach this to us. Schools never taught this to us, right? Now in schools now, it's all digital. If you have a young person, they're a digital native, but our parents weren't able to teach this to us. My mom got 3 pieces of mail. She would get an electric bill, a postcard from my Aunt Nellie on vacation, and her Good Housekeeping magazine. We now are inundated with paper. In fact, global paper usage has gone up by 400% in the last 40 years. Do you remember when they said, oh, we're going to be a paper-free society? Yeah, that didn't happen. And it's still not happening, right? On average, we each deal with 700 pounds of paper a year. So I want to reassure you, don't blame yourself. It's almost impossible unless you have a system, unless you really can capture an idea around managing this paper. It is overwhelming. And so you don't think that you should just know how to do it, because that's not realistic. You need to be taught a way to do it. So I want to share this before picture with you. And I love this because this was a client, and you see, he had his waste paper basket. He also had these two of these Container Store rolling file carts, which I love. But you see, he had his papers piled up. He couldn't even file them. I like to tell clients the floor is not an option. And that was not the case for this client. And then just a few other things. There was this precarious shelf looming over his desk where I was sure that it was going to come crashing down. The other mistake he made is that he was using a table for a desk. So it was very deep. So it allowed him an opportunity to pile all of this extra stuff on, and then it was hard to reach it. It wasn't a great solution. And he called us in, and what you can't see is behind the desk, there were 4 more filing cabinets stuffed to overflowing with piles of paper on top. And he called us in because he wanted to be able to use this as a guest room. This is actually a pull-out sofa, and he was really needing some help. So this is what we did. This is the after, right? Wow. So what did we do? We got him a real desk so that it was with file space, so that he could have his action files, the things that he needed to get to quickly, right within arm's reach. We got rid of that crazy shelf, and we also got him, once he realized how important it was to have light, he has 1, 2, 3 lights to give his desk surface illumination. And you'll see that I mention these things in the Set Up Your Desk for Success ebook. So let's compare side by side. Can you imagine the relief he felt, the productivity? He was able to have a guest. It was fantastic. But let's just look side by side. So this didn't turn into this without doing this. We had a ton of paper, and he was able to get rid of a lot of it, but he didn't feel comfortable getting rid of it all. So we ended up archiving 18 boxes of paper, and he lived in a townhome. He had room in his attic. It wasn't a problem. It made sense for him, but he did not need any of that paper within arm's reach, much less in his office. So you'll see also here that he has just another little box that he needed to finish, because again, we are not perfect. Progress over perfection. But I think that really, really illuminates, and there's the after again, just how amazing. So think how you would feel if you could get to this. So that's why it's so important. Here's a wonderful thing. This is Ginny. Ginny was a student of mine. So that was a client that we did it for them. But Ginny was a student of mine, and this is what she was able to accomplish on her own. And she said, these ideas have made me think about things in a different light and has helped me get my workspace really productive. And I'm so proud of people who take these ideas and make them their own and make this kind of progress. So what is the cost of disorganization? Oh, I'm just going to tell you, I just want to share my screen. Speaking of Ginny, Ginny was a student of mine in my course. And when we talk about the cost of disorganization, something horrible happened to her. Her husband passed away from Parkinson's. She had to care for him literally 24 hours in the last few months of his life. She shared with our group, our students, that because of that, when she finally came out of the grieving, she started sorting things out. She realized that she had missed payment on a premium for his life insurance policy, and it had gone over the 30 days grace period. And she was unable, after paying in for years and years, to get any payment on his life insurance policy. So that was a tragic and true huge cost of disorganization. And that's why it's so important to get a handle on the paper. So here are some other things. And if you think of things that aren't on this list, I'd love you to jump in. It's late fees, late paid taxes. If you pay quarterly taxes, those are due on the 15th, right? Today's the 11th. It's time to get that check in the mail. Twice paid bills, buying things that that you've already got, but you can't find them, missing tax deductions, not filing your medical reimbursements within the time and missing out on that money. I've also had a client who missed her jury summons and actually got kind of in trouble. Like somebody came to the door. I'm just going to check the chat to see. Yes, there's a huge cost of disorganization. So I don't want any of these things to happen to you. That's why it's worth taking the time to get the paper organized. So, can you imagine the feeling of having clear desks or counters? And again, I'd love to know the one word you or your clients, if you're an organizer, would use to describe being able to have a clear surface. And this surface might be, you might have to work in your kitchen because you're working from home and there's no other space. And you want to be able to have a family meal, right? So you want a way to get those surfaces clear. It's so important. I'm just going to check the chat. Serenity, calm, relief. Another word people have often used is Zen, and Zen is going to be our second code word. So for those of you who are organizers, my second code word is Zen. Z-E-N. Sorry, there's a Britishism for you. Z-E-N. Zen is our second code word. So I think that this really sums up why we're going ahead and making some effort to get this taken care of. So let's talk about some traditional methods. Okay, now who have heard these acronyms for paper processing? And you know, us organizers, we love a good acronym. So I'm sure the organizers have heard this, but I'm curious about kind of our other people here watching. Have you heard Ohio, only handle it once? Or there's FAT, file, act, toss. Or this one is from Julie Morgenstern, highly regarded professional organizer, fantastic books, Time Management from the Inside Out, Organizing from the Inside Out. And she uses sort, purge, assign, containerize, and equalize. I love it. That is fantastic. These are very, very important ideas. Actually, I like fat and space. Ohio, I gotta tell you, I do not think that only handle it once is realistic. That's as if when my financial statements come in that I still get them on paper, mind you, I stop everything and I review them all and I document it. Or when that whole tax folder comes in from your accountant, that you stop anything. It's just not realistic, right? I feel it's not realistic. I'm just going to see what you said. Agree about Ohio. Yes, those organizers here, thank you for chiming in. Ohio is a myth. I'm so glad that you agree. But I want to know, why are these misleading? And even File Act Toss is misleading. And the reason I think is because they only talk about the how, not the what. Okay, I'm gonna go deeper in this. But before we do that, we're gonna go on to some more traditional methods. So these are some of the other methods. And don't get me wrong, some of these things work great for people, but if it's working great for you, then you're probably not listening to my talk right now, okay? So there's the tickler system. For those of you who don't know, the tickler system is having a series of file folders, 1 through 31, representing the days of the month, and then January through December, representing the months of the year. And I unfortunately find that so many students or people who try this method spend so much time thinking, I think I'll deal with that. Today's the 11th. I think I'll deal with that on the 15th. Oh, and then the 15th comes around and their dog gets sick and they've got to go to the vet and they forgot to even open it, or they just keep moving it. They spend too much time thinking about when they might do it versus doing it. Getting Things Done, that's by David Allen. Again, highly regarded, but it's a pretty complicated system. Freedom Filer, a lot of people love the Freedom Filer. I am not a fan because it's a very simplistic system. And I find that my students and clients are complicated people, right? They're not simplistic people. Each of us is unique, and that's why the Freedom Filer is not really a one size fits all. And of course, you could search YouTube, or then there's the binder systems. I am not a binder fan. I'm going to just be honest with you. I'm going to tell you right up front. I find even if you're using slash pockets, it's a lot of fuss pulling out the binder, opening it up, finding what you want, throwing it in. I think it's just so much easier to just use file folders and stick your reference in. I don't see the charm of binders, and I'm not a big fan. So I just have to be upfront with you. But I want to come back to the how. The how is important, right? Yes, absolutely. We must file, act, and toss. Don't get me wrong. We absolutely need to do those things. But I think it's more important to start with the what first, okay? What do I mean by that? I think it is possible to take control of all of the paper without a digital solution. I'm not going to say, oh, just scan it. We need to rethink the way you approach and start to sort your piles right from the very beginning. We need to address the what, not the how. Let me explain. Let me introduce you to the Karma of Paper Management System. This is my personal system. And actually, I'm going to stop the share and just chat with you. So we lived in England for all of the 90s. Our daughter was born there. We moved back to America in 2000. I went from having a Fellows flat. I didn't even get to choose it. They're like, this is where you'll live. And they paid all of the utilities. I went from that to moving back to America. We had an apartment. We bought a home. All of a sudden, I just my daughter was going to preschool. I had to research insurance. We bought a car. We had an empty home. We had nothing. I had to get furniture and appliances and set up utilities. I was overwhelmed. So this system was developed because I needed a system. Remember, in 2000, we were still very much a paper-based society. And I needed a system to capture all of these paper, the things I needed to do, the things I needed to refer to, the American taxes that I needed to file, all of this stuff. So that's where the Karma of Paper Management was born. And the system that I set up 23 years ago, I still use to this day. I occasionally change a file folder or add a new one or get rid of one, but it's a long-lasting solution, and that's how it came to be. I just wanted to kind of make it clear. So what is it? Oh, well, first, let me tell you, why is my method better? Because if you can identify what you have, then you will know exactly where it goes and how to deal with it. Okay, I'm going to repeat that for you, okay, because I know you want to understand. What the piece of paper is determines exactly where it goes and how to process it. I'm going to explain, but first I'm going to share one of my favorite quotes with you. That is, clutter is nothing more than postponed decisions. Again, from my beloved Barbara Hemphill, this is, I really want you to think about this. Clutter is nothing more than postponed decisions. So if you are looking around your home right now, okay, and you are seeing piles of things, here's an example. Because Christmas just happened, I'm betting that you might be like me and you have a pile of the Christmas cards that you received and they're sitting there and you haven't, they've gone from being beautiful to now that pile has become clutter. And the reason is because you haven't decided what you're doing with them. Are you saving them? Are you throwing them away? Do you need to reread them? Is there information on people's addresses that you want? You need to decide. Maybe you're looking around and you see a couple of bags of donations that need to get out. Why aren't they in your car? You need to make a decision to move things forward. So every bit of clutter that exists is just because we haven't decided what to do with it. And if we're keeping it, where it goes. And some of us are like, oh, well, I don't want to put it away because if I put it away, it disappears. But I bet you all know where your milk is, right? Because you have a dedicated place in the refrigerator to get the milk. And when it's low, you're like, oh, we need more milk. Your whole home should come under that same kind of idea. So I really love this quote, and I think it's really worthwhile to share. So let me tell you about the 5 clear categories that you absolutely must know about. And for the organizers here, I bet you're not surprised to hear that they are karma. They are the 5 letters of karma, and they stand for CRUD, K for crud. And I know I misspelled crud, but I had to do it for my acronym. People, we live and die for our acronyms. The next is A, action items and active projects. The next is R for reference, M for memorabilia, and A for archive. And that is the karma of paper management method. These are the 5 clear categories. So let's dive in. K is for crud, right? And just this is why I started with showing you that you need to have your bin near you. If you don't master tossing out what is the excess, then you will never, ever be organized. Whether it's paper or spices or clothing, if you can't edit the excess, you'll never be organized. And what I tell my students is trash it. Don't stash it. So many of them don't want to make a decision. So they'll be like, oh, I might need it just in case. I'll file it. Why would you invest that kind of energy and time filing something that really should just have been thrown away? It's probably outdated. You're probably never going to refer to it again. So I think you really need to think of the crud as kind of the things that bog down your well-oiled processes, right? You really need to keep your paper processing machine oiled and moving in the right direction. And the crud is the stuff that bogs us down. So luckily, there are things that we can just decide, we can make a list and decide that these are the things we are going to toss right off the top. And so this is my list, okay? And I would love if you've got some other ideas, if you would share that with me in the chat. My list is the checkbook guide. that is, people think that those are like vetted service providers. They're not. They pay to be in the checkbook guide. And I think checkbook just makes sure that they don't have a bad Better Business rating. I tossed that off right away. I'd much rather get a recommendation from a friend. Sales circulars, prospectuses, credit card offers, catalogs. This is an Appleseeds catalog. I ordered my mother-in-law something off of this catalog online, and I forgot to check. Don't send me catalogs. And look at this. It's like never ending. They're always going to find me. Catalogs, I throw away right away. Coupons, travel brochures. And then there are the appeals, right? There are the alumni appeals, the political appeals, the charity appeals. If you're in my agent stage, you are inundated with these appeals. For me, this is all crud. I get rid of it right away. So I'm curious if you can think of some other things that are crud as well. And what you might want to do is just make yourself a list of things that you're giving yourself the permission to get rid of right away. And to that end, I have another gift for you, which is this ebook, The 12 Types of Papers to Toss Today, Transform Your Desk in Just a Few Hours. And this is at the link, the same link, CeelyCawley.com/MaxSold. MaxSold is where you guys want to go. And you can get both of these ebooks for free. Because again, it's so important. If you have a list and you give yourself permission, you're going to find it's so much easier to get rid of the excess. So I definitely wanted to give you that resource as well. Moving along. A is for action items and active projects. Okay, now this is A. It is alpha at the top of the alphabet. This is where you should be spending 75–80% of your time in your paper world with these actual items, okay? They are so important. Let's talk a little bit more. Action items and active projects are often thought of as to-dos, right? How many times have I gone to somebody and they have a folder called to-do? Well, that's a little overwhelming. There might be literally hundreds of to-dos. If you're a business owner like me, I have personal to-dos, family-based to-dos, home-based to-dos, and then business to-dos. It really helps to break them down. So I would love to know if you guys can think of some action items. And the way that I define the difference between action items and active projects, action items to me are ongoing. They are always happening. So let me see if you guys have any ideas. Oh, you guys are just chatting amongst yourself. That's absolutely fine. Let me give you some examples. Action items can be to pay, to read, to review, to call, to follow up, to file. I think action items are always ongoing. I'm always going to have bills to pay. I'm always going to have things pending, right, to follow up. So I like to use verbs to label my action item folders, and I like to divide them because I think it's so much easier to batch. I don't pay my bills every time one comes in. And of course, a lot is automated. If it's already automated, that's great. If you can manage it already in digital form. But personally, I have bills that, like my utility bill, I have it automated that it changes so dramatically. I want to see the bill. I want it to come to my home so that I open the mail and I see the bill and that I pay, but I don't pay it every time it comes in. I pay my bills twice a month. So that's what an action item is. It's ongoing. Now, active projects are a bit different. Can you see how an active project might be different from an action item? They're still both they're still both on your desk, things you need to deal with. My most recent active project was that my washing machine broke down. And although I had many other things to do, that filtered right to the top of my active project because I needed to do some research and order a new washing machine. That's not an ongoing thing, hopefully. I'm not always ordering appliances. That was an active project that I needed to take care of. So that is how I define the difference between action and active. And active can be things like planning for a vacation, changing an insurance policy, a health insurance policy. That often takes a lot of time. Active can be doing a renovation, whether it's a small, just choosing a new rug, to a whole home. If it's a whole home renovation, then you might need a whole lot more than one folder. You might need a box to manage all of the components of that. Party planning. We're not always planning parties. Well, some of us might be, but I'm not always planning a party. That's an active project. That's something I'm actively working on. And once it's complete, it's done. It's not ongoing. So I just want to make it very clear how I define those two different categories. R is for reference. Okay. Now, some of you consider reference filing, right? File, act, toss. File reference to me is only things I'm referring to. I don't call it filing because you guys file it to let it die. Like I said, you're going to stash it instead of trash it. The only things I have in my reference folders are things I'm really going to refer to. And because I'm paper-based, it's much easier for me for instance, if I have new blood work and they send me the information or print it out, it's much easier for me to file that in my medical records folder so that I've got the old one and the new one and I compare, than for me to go into my portal and log in, scan through, find. It's much easier for me to do it in paper. We're all individuals. We have half our life in digital and half of our life in paper. The older you are, the more paper you probably have. So reference files should really only be for the things you're going to refer to. Let me give you just a few examples of what that could be. It could be personal, it can be home, work, health, and so much more. And this is actually this is a picture of my reference box, my personal reference box. So I hope that that makes sense to you and what the difference is. Now, here's an example. This was a student who had Freedom Filer, and you see she really was trying to make it work. My gosh, she had the Freedom Filer. That's the things that say medical, real estate, Social Security, and she had her label maker and she was trying to make it work, but it wasn't working for her. This is what it looked like. She couldn't find what she needed, right? It didn't make sense to her. It was just this kind of alphabetical solution. But once she customized it, after applying karma, right? She had her crud, she threw it away. She had her active action items and active projects on her desk. This was her reference folder. This is what she was able to do. And she was able to really personalize it. She actually had quite a lot of health issues, so she had a different folder for each. It made it much easier for her to find what happened the last time I had a scan of my back. Oh, back in my medical. She could get her hands on it right away. This is the power of knowing what you have, because once you know what you have, you know exactly where it goes and what to do with it. And this is a great example. This is from Andrew Green, who said, I just had to write and share. I was supposed to have all of my refinancing documents to the lender last week. And this actually was when it was at the very lowest and she was refinancing in 2021. He extended the deadline, but then he said, can you get it to me by noon? She was not expecting that. So I rushed to get everything. And basically in 45 minutes, I was able to locate every single document to send them for an entire mortgage refinance. So I wanted to let you know that the systems we set up over a decade ago are phenomenal and long lasting. Thanks. So I want to share with you that if you invest the time to do it in a logical, sensible way, using karma as the backbone, it really does pay off, as it did for Andrea, who was able to find her stuff right away. So memorabilia, M is for memorabilia. And the reason why M is its own letter is that the memorabilia is so important. And I find that the memorabilia is often what clogs up our system, right? You're only thinking about action and active reference. You don't think about the memorabilia, but the memorabilia is the heart-based stuff. That's the stuff that's really important. And that's why I separate it out. So when I'm talking about memorabilia, I'm talking specifically about two-dimensional paper-based keepsakes, okay? Not a wedding dress, that is also memorabilia, but because we're talking about paper, I'm talking about the two-dimensional things. So what are those? Programs, ticket stubs, letters, greeting cards, kids art, and more kids stuff, photographs, and so much more. It is a huge category, which is why I totally separate it out, which really separates my system out from almost everyone else's system, because I recognize that this is a very, very important category. And I think it's important to separate it out. It's what is heart-based versus head-based, right? And that's why I find it to be so important. Our final A is archive, and archive is pretty simple. It's generally considered long-term storage, just as we saw for my client earlier with the 18 bankers boxes. And the archive is often based on financial, medical, professional, educational, employment, or property. Okay, so these are the things that we don't need near us in our office. They can be in a basement or an attic as long as it's not damp or wet. But we can, it's the things that we need to hold on to just in case. And everybody has a different comfort level. So just to review, K is CRUD, A is action items and archive, R is reference, M is memorabilia, and the final A is archive. And the beautiful thing about this is that after you get rid of the CRUD, there are really only 4 categories, right? So it's a very simple, flexible system of looking at things. Now, I need to remind you that the categories are not stagnant, they change, okay? And I'm going to give you a little example. So you have a beautiful wedding invitation, right? This piece of paper, the first thing you need to do is make a decision, right? And you say you decide no, well, then that's an action item. You need to RSVP that you're not going, and maybe this becomes CRUD. But if the answer is yes, then all of a sudden this one piece of paper has created an active project. We're going to a wedding in England in April. I need to RSVP, get a gift, make travel plans, accommodation plans. My daughter needs to book out vacation time. We need to get clothing. It has become a large active project that's currently on my desk because it's in just 3 months' time. So after the wedding, this same piece of paper is going to become memorabilia. I'm going to put it in my memories box because I'm going to want that piece of paper to remind me of the most amazing day celebrating our best friend's daughter's wedding. So this is why I'm telling you what it is determines where it goes and how to deal with it. But things move through the system, right? After you've done something, often that becomes CRUD. So I want you to embrace it because it is flexible and dynamic. Clutter is anything that stands between you and the life you want to live. That's from Peter Walsh. And I really do think it sums up the reason why we want to focus on getting these things done. So what would you do? What could you do with your time or energy if you weren't wasting all of it churning the paper? I have had students start nonprofits, volunteer, vacation, spend more time with their grandchildren or children. I had a student who was actually able to retire because she finally organized her financial papers, took them to an advisor, and he was like, you could retire. She did not realize she could do that till the organization happened. So I'd like to know if you're inspired by these ideas And what is the one action or idea that you might take and try today? Put it in the chat. I would love to know. Are you going to take care of your Christmas cards? Are you going to get one of these so you don't have to worry about shredding? Are you going to take a look at the piles and maybe use karma to start to sort? I'd really love for you to take advantage of some of this. So if you want to learn more, I invite you to get on the wait list for the paper cleanse. That's at the MaxSold link. There is absolutely no obligation, but you will be the first to know when I open the doors in February, and everybody on the wait list gets a bonus. So that's exciting. And I did want to share my final code word for those of you who are gathering code words, and that code word is paper. PAPER is my final code word. So thank you so much for your time and attention. We've got about 5 minutes left for Q&A, and I really, really appreciate that you were here today. So do you have some questions for me? Were you gathering those for me, Brian or Cesar?
All right, perfect. That was a perfect presentation. Thank you very much. So no, actually, that the questions looks like you had them pretty much covered. Nothing on Facebook right now. So if we have any questions here left for C. Lee, that now would be the time.
Fantastic. So sometimes the question is, how do you know, right? How do you know when you pick something up? And I literally say, do you need to do something about it, right? Do you need to take action on it? And do you need to take action on it right now? Is it an active project? And once you start looking at your papers with the kind of karma concept in mind, people are shocked at how much that they can find that they really, well, no, I don't need to do anything about it. I really, I ripped this article out of a magazine because I thought that might be a recipe I would want to try. I'm like, okay, so the last time you tried a recipe, where did you look for it? Oh, well, I just went to Epicurious and typed in chicken and pesto. I'm like, so then are you really going to be looking through a pile of paper? Do you want an active project that says recipes to try? Is that something you're actively doing? Oh, okay. Or, well, maybe you want a reference of all of your recipes. That's a great example of a wonderful reference, like a reference box. Something like this can become appetizers, entrees, desserts, or even I organize my recipes by holiday because I don't cook much. So these are my Thanksgiving, this is my Christmas, and that's about it because I don't do a lot of cooking. Is there anything else?
All right, perfect. And let's see here. Joanne, the link, I'm going to go ahead and repost the link here as well. So it's cleecoli.com/MaxSold.
Yeah.
And you can go in there to
You'll
get what
get
you're
these
looking for.
2 ebooks, and then there are also links to the 3 products that I showed, and also a link there to get on the wait list for the paper cleanse. If you want to learn more about the paper cleanse, I'll be doing that coming up in we'll be teaching it for the month of March. So March Madness, it's a great opportunity because it's often a gray month to stay home and get the papers done.
Perfect. And okay, so we have another one here related to the memorabilia storage. Do you keep the paper items separate from the other stuff, or does it go together? For example, wedding invites, dried corsage. Do you keep them all together?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. So yeah, if it's like for my wedding, I have a box, a very small box of just a few things for my wedding. My invitation is in there as well. But for like weddings that I've gone to, I don't have any other 3-dimensional memorabilia that I'm holding on to. Maybe if there was a favor, but I generally don't mix 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional, partially because it doesn't store well together. If there's like, let's say you're holding on to some 3-dimensional, say your mother's jewelry box, and she wrote some letters to you. If it would make sense if that was the theme of that box, my mother's memories, to keep her letters with her jewelry box, because that's thematic. So I don't mind that. But in general, I don't store like kids' artwork with their papers. I don't store the macaroni sculpture. If I was saving it, and I would recommend that you take a photograph of your child holding the macaroni sculpture and then take that two-dimensional memorabilia and put it in their box. But I generally don't store them together unless it's really thematic. So in the case of the wedding, that might work. Oh no, and I see we're out of time. If anybody has any questions, you can always email me. I'm happy to answer. clee@cleecauley.com. And I thank you so much for your time and attention. This was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, everybody. And Rosaline, yes, there is going to be a follow-up email with the link and the link to where you can find the webinar as well, a replay. Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Celie, again, it's been a pleasure.
It was such a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.